Whenever we fall sick or get a physical wound, we rush to seek help. We make sure that the injury is treated well before it gets worse. However, we often ignore our emotional wounds. Astha ma'am is here today to address the problems, myths, stigmas associated with mental health and help us work on our emotional hygiene. Over to you, Vanshika.
Thank you. For the benefit of the students and the staff, Kirori Mal College has its own KMC Wellness Center, where the services of a trained counselor are available. Appointments with the counselor can be fixed via email, phone calls, or even messages. The identity and the personal information of anyone seeking help is kept strictly confidential. It is our great pleasure to introduce to you the consulting counselor to the KMC Wellness Center, Ms. Astha Nagpal. Astha ma'am is a clinical psychologist who has completed her MPhil in clinical psychology and master's in psychosocial clinical studies. She has dedicated 8 years catering to the care and emotional well-being of children, young adults, and families. Her work also involves individual and group psychotherapy sessions. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vanshika and Ameha. Yes, I would really appreciate if we can have cameras on, because otherwise it gets very difficult to make a connect, because all I'm seeing is name and blank screen. So I'll appreciate if we can switch on our cameras. It's okay if you are not sitting on a chair, it's bed, whatever. It's just it works well when we have interaction of this kind. Also, I was wondering, if we could also put it in chat, what we really understand by emotional hygiene, the first word that comes to you. I would also like to know from you people. So just put it in chat, as in when I'm talking, you can put it in chat and tell me what is the first word that comes to you when you think about emotional hygiene. Thank you so much for having me here, and thanks for the introduction, both of you. Yes, I work with your college as a consultant counselor. You can reach out to me for counseling therapy individually. You can write to me on the email address. Maybe we can share that with you once the session gets over. We can share the details with you and you can reach out. I can see that students are writing. I would request Vanshika, Palak, or Ameha, if you could just keep a tab on what everybody is writing. So before we get into the understanding of what emotional hygiene is like, I would want to show a video. Palak, if you can please share the video for all of us to watch.
I don't care how good you are, I don't care how talented you are, I don't care how much you work on yourself. There are some times when things aren't going to go right. There are times when anything that can happen will happen.
Life happens. The unexpected, the uncalled for, the unintentional. We've been damaged emotionally, damaged spiritually.
It may be your business. It may be your heart that is broken today. It may be the number in your bank account that is screaming, you are broke.
You can break physically, you can break mentally, you can break your heart, you can break your spirit, and all of those are gonna leave a mark. But the mark that they leave can be the mark of victory or it can be the mark of defeat.
It is staying with the breaking that produces the blessing. It is not what you go through that determines where you end up. It's who you listen to. Because I think right now you are walking through a valley between two voices. One is wisdom, one is worry. One is gratitude, one is grumbling. One is blame, one is faith.
Because every time you break, and in every way that you break, while it's a chance for you to give up and for you to fall apart. But there's also opportunity to get stronger and get smarter and get faster and get tougher and get more stable and get more resilient and get better.
What I need you to do is I need you to find a reason to keep going. And if you can find a reason to keep going, I know you're strong enough to do it because you're human. And every human has what it takes to get past whatever they're going through if they decide to. Push through it. Push through it. Tragedy and trials come to everybody. Only the strong survive.
The fight isn't over. The fight is just beginning. You have the opportunity to show the world what you are really made of.
I need you to look at that sickness that's going on in your life right now, whatever it is. I want you to say, I can beat it. I can beat it. I will beat it. I must. I got a family to live for. I ain't through yet. My life ain't over yet. There's some things in life you don't need no degree for. You don't need no money for it. You don't need no support for it. There's some things in life you just gonna get through when you tell yourself, I'm gonna get through this.
Regardless of what happens to you in life, regardless of the adversity, regardless of the opposition, regardless of the trial and tribulation, nothing can stop you. The only thing that can stop you is you. No situation, no circumstance, no piece of adversity can define your life. Never let a circumstance define you.
And I'm not retreating. I'm not running. I don't care what they say on paper. I don't care if you say we outnumbered. We live by this and we die by this. We don't retreat. We don't run. We gonna stand, we gonna live, and we gonna die by what we stand for, and everybody gonna know what we represent and what we're part of.
I got staying power. I got staying power.
Be encouraged today that no matter what you walk through, no matter how broken your marriage is, no matter how many times you failed,
there is within you a spirit that is greater than whatever is going on around you.
If you would be willing to fight your way through this battle, fight your way through cancer, fight your way through that academic struggle, fight your way through divorce, fight your way through it. If you are willing to fight your way through that singing career, fight your way through boxing, fight your way through football, I'm telling you at the end of the fight is going to come victory.
And as you crawl up and out of that dismal and wretched place, as you rise above what you were, and as you take the form of who you are supposed to be, you will see that in the very act of standing up, in the very act of fighting on, you will become and you will remain unbroken.
You can close it. Yeah, thank you. Well, that was quite heavy. I think the idea was also to set the mood right and to know what we are here to discuss and talk about. I would appreciate once again if we can keep our cameras on, or if we have anything to talk about, any reflection while I'm talking, please feel free to put it in the chat. We will try to address it within the session. So, well, yes, you know what? No two survivors can survive the same. And so no two survivors also heal the same way. Sometimes we are weighed down by the expectations of others. And I think it's important to also let go that bit, Do not compare your process with anyone else, which we really naturally allow ourselves to feel compared. And, that really pulls us down, impacts us in various ways. I think it's important to understand and acknowledge that your process, your journey is sovereign to you. And, nobody else, no one else can live a life that you have. Nobody knows what the journey you have been through. It's important that we honor our journey. It is guiding you to be yourself, to be who you are. And, when we talk about emotional hygiene, like Ameha mentioned, how we've been very careful, especially with what we've been going through over last 1.5 years, the whole COVID situation. We've been extremely cautious of physical hygiene. Even those who've been lazy around it, we've been very, very careful, and we realized how important it is. Just washing your hands, how important it plays a role in one's life, that became an important part of survival. But my question to all of you is, how many of us have been really working inwards? How many of us have really sat down with our emotions and have tried to understand what is it that we are going through? Are we able to express what we are feeling? Do we allow ourselves to feel truly? Maybe not. We struggle a lot when it comes to
पढ़ना नहीं आता होगा ना गाइस, सिर्फ 10.
Okay, so I would request everyone to please keep your mic mute. Yeah, so my point is that something that we've really been struggling to learn is how to keep ourselves emotionally hygiene. How do you maintain that? What do we mean by emotional hygiene? I read the few comments students have written in the chat. I asked, what is that one word that comes to you when you talk about emotional hygiene? And you said control, clarity, stability, peace of mind, managing emotions, sound mental health, peace of soul, working of mind in a directed path, proper control over our emotions. And I think that's a lot which is being said and understood, that yes, when we talk about emotional hygiene, we are talking about being mindful of our psychological health. How are we feeling? How are we doing in our relationships? How are we doing academically? How are things in our family? How do we feel about ourselves? There's so much. Do we really allow ourselves to sit with it and reflect? Do we allow ourselves to have a conversation about it? I think we struggle a lot, and that is why this we are meeting here today on this platform is also to understand that why it is so important to cater to your emotional needs, cater to your psychological needs. How do we identify what is it that I'm going through? What is it that I can do about it? It's also very important to adapt to daily, daily habits, kind of habits which are reinforcing in nature, that promotes and monitor and address your psychological health. Maybe we all are doing it in some way or the other. I'm sure you guys know about sleep hygiene, your eating habits, your work schedule. Now that we all are home, you're working, your classes are happening while you are at home. I believe a lot has changed over 1 year, and I would like to know from you, how does it feel? Especially it was very difficult and overwhelming for all of us when we all were introduced to lockdown for the very first time. We didn't know what was happening. We didn't know what we are supposed to do. I think there was a peak of excitement and newness because a lot of us have not really spent that time with our own families. And it was a very different mood altogether. We were ready to experiment. We were ready to try new dishes. We were enjoying the home time. But soon it became also a space of anxiety. It became a space of conflicts. Maybe you came across a lot of fights at home. Maybe you realized the importance of privacy, you realized the importance of your space, which you struggled with while everybody was home, and all of this perhaps never occurred to you before. So I believe that over 1.5 years, a lot has changed in how we feel ourselves in relationship, we feel about our families, about our academic growth, about our college. I mean, a lot of students have come to me and, they've expressed that it's so difficult to sustain the same concentration, to be able to feel as effective and fruitful with classes as you might have felt when you used to come to college. And I don't think it's just academic. There is so much of social interaction that you have access to when you are in college. And losing that access because of a situation which was in nobody's control, I wonder, what it did to all of you. How did it impact your emotional well-being? Were we able to maintain an emotional hygiene? Were we mindful of what is it that my soul needs? Somebody said emotional hygiene is peace of soul. What do we mean by that? How can we attain that? Amidst, we have to give our exams, we have to submit our papers, there's so much of competition, there's so much of threat outside, we can't meet our friends, we all are connected virtually. How did that change our idea of being? I think it's something very important to reflect upon, to stay with, to understand, what are the things, what are the situations, what kind of responses and treatment affects us, injures us. When we talk about emotional hygiene, we are also talking about psychological injury, which mostly comes from when we experience failure of a kind, when we experience rejection, when we experience heartbreak, and when there is extreme sense of loneliness. I mean, I was also introduced and told by a lot of students, not just here, but even outside, that how while, we are at home with our families, there is a sense of loneliness, unable to connect. I think we never realized the importance of touch and warmth until COVID. Not meeting your friends, not, celebrating your birthdays with your friends. I think it did hit all of us very hard, but I think as humans, we are so creative. I believe we all started celebrating birthdays on Zoom. I mean, some of you even, maybe a batch prior to yours also had their farewell on Zoom. And I think that is the strength where, given any circumstances, we are able to find a way that comforts us, that gives us something that we've been longing for. But to be able to understand what is it that I long for, it's important to know what you are feeling, how your relationships are. Are you happy in your friendships? Are you happy as a boyfriend, as a girlfriend? How are things in the family? How are you doing academically? Sometimes we keep pushing away what we are experiencing or going through because it's very hard to stay with it. We let it pile up. We keep telling ourselves that it's okay, we can't do much, let it be. We distract. We keep pushing it away until it explodes. I think this is also very a very natural response that we all consider, that seeking therapy or going to a therapist or a counselor happens only when we are experiencing extreme amount of crisis of any kind. उससे पहले जरूरत नहीं है. Only when I am experiencing crisis where I cannot bear what is happening with me anymore is when I reach out. But we don't do that with our physical health. I think we are more prompt, we are more comfortable to visit a physician, to go to a medical doctor, than to see a therapist. And seeking therapy is not limited to crisis work. That is one of the works done in a therapy space. You don't have to suffer until you cannot bear it anymore. Sometimes, we feel that, okay, we have a friend, we have our own support system that works, that helps. I can talk and, I'm heard, I feel listened to. Well, that's great if that works for you. But sometimes that is not enough. We may feel being judged. We may still feel not being listened to. What do we do about it? Do we realize, when we leave the wound unattended, the physical wound, it leads to infection. We are told that we need to clean it. We need to use an antiseptic for it to heal. But we don't do that with our emotions. We find it so difficult to address, to talk about what is it that is hurting us. Are we experiencing any kind of failure, any kind of loss? Are we feeling too low and sad consistently? We are told that, no, but you have friends, you have family, you are in a good college, college is also at ease, everything is fine. Why are you sad? You shouldn't be sad. And then we ask ourselves, maybe being sad, being vulnerable is a weakness. And we show only a side of ours to people. You always want to wear that guard of confidence, of doing great. It's very difficult to acknowledge that, vulnerability involves courage. Courage cannot exist without vulnerability. Feeling low, feeling vulnerable is not a weakness. I think it's a sign that you are experiencing something, you are feeling something. Sometimes our body also responds to vulnerability, to what we are feeling, to our stresses. How many of us have experienced headaches and stomach aches and, fatigue? This is a very fancy and common word used. We are procrastinating. All of us use that. कुछ समझ नहीं आ रहा है, मन नहीं कर रहा है, हम procrastinate कर रहे हैं. It must be lethargy. घर पे ही तो है पूरा दिन. There's no workout. We are not meeting friends. We can't party. There's nothing happening. It's so boring. We are fatigued. Sometimes our mind also feels that. And when it becomes unbearable for our mind to hold the stress that you're keeping, it starts showing physically. जिसको हम psychosomatic बोलते हैं. There may not be any physiological cause to the pain that you're experiencing in body. So no doctors won't be able to identify that something is wrong. It's in fact, your anxiety or stress that is bringing that kind of manifestation. You must have seen little kids, when or you can recall your own experience when you were very young and your parents took you to school. How many of us have had severe stomach aches, headaches, and we are crying, we don't want to go? That's anxiety. That's fear. But our body locates it, it almost gets localized. Yes, I can feel my anxiety in my stomach. So I can give you a medicine. But are we ready to address that anxiety? Are we ready to address what we are going through emotionally, psychologically? I know it takes a lot of courage. But are we able to maintain it by ourselves? Are we able to monitor? What is it that is making me feel underconfident? What is it that is making me feel anxious in a class setting? That is making me feel extremely, cranky when I'm with my friends. मुझे कुछ अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, लड़ाई हो रही है, miscommunication हो रहा है, fights हो रही है. I'm feeling hurt. Do we really sit down with that hurt? Sometimes yes, but a lot of times we just push it away. We may choose not to talk to our friends. We may choose to unfollow them, block them. That is a reaction to what you're experiencing. But how many of us really sit down and try to understand what was it that really hurt me? What made me feel so disappointed in the other person? What really happened? Now, like I said in the very beginning, no two people will heal the same way. You all are same age group, more or less, perhaps similar experiences, similar transitional complexities. Yet, each one of us have a very different experience of how we receive our situations, our environment. It is very, very different for each one of us. And it becomes very important that we acknowledge that. Maybe we all don't need to go to therapy. But going to therapy does not mean you need to be in a crisis state. Where somebody else notices that, you're not doing well, you're having panic attacks, go see a doctor. You are being consistently sad. Something is wrong. It comes very easy for us to use the words like depression, anxiety, panic attacks. Do we know what they really mean? Because then we are diagnosing. These are clinical terms. Yes, I can have low mood. Yes, I can feel anxious. That does not mean I have anxiety disorder or I have clinical depression. That is why emotional hygiene is so, so important. Where you are able to monitor and track what you are experiencing, what you are going through, and find out your ways of, addressing them, working on them. It would be unfair to say, you know what, maintain a journal. Let all of us write our thoughts in journal every night before we go off to sleep and notice the pattern. Not everybody is interested in writing journal. Someone may want to just talk. Someone may just want to paint. Someone may just want to watch a movie, or play a game. So I do not want to, tell you anything which makes it sound as if it's generic. It is not. We all work very, very differently. And so are our ways of how we keep up with our emotional well-being. It is not one soap that we all can use and, we can disinfect the germs. It's very important that we learn to value our emotions, our being, what we are experiencing. And if we leave this unattended, if we let all of this pile up, it's almost like emotional bleeding. अगर हम उसको address नहीं कर रहे हैं, pile up कर रहे हैं, from years and years, it will take up a shape in responses, in our behaviors, in our personality. You are at an age group, you are in an age bracket where your personality is still forming. There's a part of the brain that develops till you're 24, 25. It's called prefrontal cortex. It helps you with execution, with decision making, with emotions. So yes, you are at an age where you make mistakes, where you will engage into things which seems very tempting, which seems very thrilling, and may not lead to a satisfying result, may put you in danger. Our decisions can be wrong because we are impulsive, we are ruthless. There is that very strong need to gratify. If I want it right now, I want. By hook or crook. What happens with those disappointments? How do we respond to our impulsivity? Or to a failure? Or to a rejection? That rejection could be in so many forms. Or to this sense of loneliness. I've heard so many people saying that everything seems fine. I have a very caring family, I have friends, I'm doing good academically, but I'm feeling very lonely. There's a sense of void, there's a sense of emptiness. And I think it's important to address. Sometimes, yes, talking to friends help, talking to parents help, it gives us perspective. But sometimes we may need a professional. Like I said, you don't have to be at a stage where you're diagnosed with depression or you're having medication to reach out for therapy. You can come for therapy even if it's been a couple of days and you've not been feeling great. You feel something is off. I think it's important to talk. Nobody is judging you in that space. That space is precisely meant for you to vent, to offer your perspective, not suggestions. Therapy is not suggestive. It believes that you have that capacity to arrive at your own answers. And like I said, it happens at its own pace with each one of us. So, just pause, stop. We've been running all our lives. We've been in such a competitive space, be it academic, be it relationships, be it how we look, be it how are we going to be placed in a company, what is going to be our package, what not. I think it's important to stop. Notice how your body is responding to certain emotional reactions. What is it that is making you feel emotionally hurt? Try to recognize that. See if you can clean up what is accumulated in those disappointments, in those hurts. Can we initiate a conversation, reach out to someone who hurt us? Sometimes we hurt our own selves. Not taking care of your own body and mind is hurting yourself. We don't realize that. Take initiative. If you feel something is off with the other person, something is wrong, try to have a conversation. Take challenges. Accept those challenges. Being brave, while being vulnerable, strength. Sometimes we need to take those risks. We need to open up. We need to talk. You know, sometimes we feel that so a friend comes to you and they're going through a difficult time. We want to help. We want to be available for a friend. But what we don't realize is what listening to somebody else's story doing to us. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming. But वो तो मेरी best friend है. You know, वो तो मेरा best friend है. I have to listen. I have to make myself available. Otherwise, I'll hurt that person. I think you're hurting yourself and the other person by exposing yourself to a conversation which maybe you're not professionally prepared. It is very important to acknowledge that we all have limitations. To be able to build those healthy boundaries. Yes, of course, be available. Be that person your friend can reach out to. But you can very subtly, very politely also let them know that this is something that you don't know how to address. And it is becoming too overwhelming for you. Why not reach out to, someone who can receive it, who can take care of it. Be shy from doing that. We are scared. The other person will lose the trust. But no. I think what you're encouraging is healthy friendship. And that is very, very important. Work on your self-esteem. Again, how? You may ask me how. What is self-esteem? How do you want us to work on it? What do we feel about ourselves? How do I define myself? How do I place myself vis-a-vis the other? In a competitive space, in a personal space, in a romantic space, howsoever. Do we really appreciate ourselves? I don't know how many of us appreciate ourselves. We find it very difficult. And if I'll ask you right now, okay, tell me things that you wish to change about yourself, you want to work upon yourself, I think you all will be very prompt, something that you don't like about yourself. And that is the feedback which we also take from others. We forget that there's something good in us. And we tend to ruminate. We tend to get into this loop of negative thoughts. And yes, if it continues, it's very difficult to break that, to break that pattern. Identify what are those negative thoughts. Identify what you're telling yourself. Sometimes you're very hard on our own selves. You're very harsh. Ease out. Allow yourself to believe that you are capable of taking care of yourself. Nobody would know what your body wants, what your mind wants, other than you. So it is so important and essential to be aware of what your body is indicating, what your mind is indicating. When are we experiencing burnout? What is it that we can do about it? I think I can address a few questions if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am. So we have a couple of questions. So Ashi asks,
are you reading from chat?
Yeah, from the chat.
Okay.
Ma'am, how to identify that we need the help of a therapist for our problems?
Okay. See, there is no criteria per se. Like I said, most of us reach out when there is a crisis situation. Now, when we reach out, so that does not mean you shouldn't reach out when you're in a crisis situation. The point is, if you are experiencing a certain kind of mood or behavior, which is impacting your, social life, it is impacting how you're feeling about yourself, and it could be anything. There is nothing silly or serious about it. Sometimes we also judge ourselves with the problems. I had a fight with my friend and I'm feeling terrible about it. It's been 2 months. I'm not able to trust anybody else. It may sound silly to few. Dosti to hai, you can work it out, it's fine. But it may be affecting you very differently. So there are no such criterias or red flags. Of course, there are red flags to reach out both to a psychiatrist and a therapist. But there is no criteria to reach out for the first consultation. You would not know if you need help unless you talk about it, unless you share. And sometimes friends and parents are not the best judge, to help you assess. But if you think you've been in a certain kind of mood persistently, so a low mood or a very high mood, or there is anxiety, or there are issues in your relationships related to trust, related to how you feel yourself in the other person's presence. There could be family conflicts. There's so many. I cannot really exhaust the list here. I'm just talking, what the kind of clients I look or I see, and there is no fixed way. There is no timeline. There is no rating scale that I should be on 6 and then I can reach to a therapist. If you're feeling you're not doing good emotionally, psychologically, and it could mean anything, reach out. Maybe you can try reaching out to a friend or a parent if you're comfortable to begin with. If that doesn't help, reach out to a therapist.
So the next question is from Radhika. There is even a fear as if time is slipping and we are doing up to our potential. Like, how should we deal with this? So I think she means to ask that if there is a fear that we are not, achieving what we can achieve, and if we are not working to our potential, how do we work with that?
I'm reading it again. Of course, time waits for none, as we've been taught, and it's very well engraved in all of us. So what you're talking here is about disappointments. So what you're talking here is about not meeting the goals, the potential that you've set for yourself or your parents or your families or your teachers. And it can be very demotivating. For me, it's very important to understand, how do you define potential? What is it that we want to deal with? Not meeting the potential, which is bringing us anxiety, or this expectation of a kind which is making us question our own self. Am I capable? Did I overprojected my own capacities, my own capabilities? What will happen if I fail to deliver my expected goals? Will I disappoint others? Will I disappoint myself? What does that do to you? Who are others? Who are you calling others? Is it me in the class who is a brilliant student, and all of a sudden not meeting the expected marks, not being able to attend classes? So what is it doing to me? Am I worried what my friends will think of me? Am I worried what my professor will think of me? But what is contributing to that demotivation, that disinterest, is equally important. We don't work on that. We want solutions. We want quick fix. Tell me how to meet the potential. My potential is that I study 12 hours in a day and I'm able to write papers in my 3 years of graduation. I need to be part of these many societies, and I should be doing all of that. Along with that, I should take care of my mental health, my physical health, my family, my friendships. What are we engaging in? It's important to stay and see your fears, your insecurity is very real, Radhika, what you put it in a question. Yes, there is that fear. I didn't realize that a year has gone by. I think all of us are experiencing that. पता नहीं चला कि एक साल हो गया, क्या किया एक साल में? But that 1 year of uncertainty, did it demand you to perform? Why do we expect ourselves to perform all the time? Performance poor is equal to I'm not good enough. Performance poor only means that you could not perform up to a potential that you'd expected in a given situation, in a given task. That does not define you. That does not make who you are. Yeah.
The next question has been asked by Priyanshu. He asks if you can tell us a few things which we can implement in our daily life to improve our emotional health.
I talk to my plants, and that's very helpful. I talk to my fish also, and that's very helpful. Like when I'm having my dinner, I sit with my fish bowl. It's a tiny fish, just one fish, and I always ask the fish, how have you managed to survive in these 3 months all by yourself? That fish is supposed to be वो अकेले ही रह सकते हैं because it kills other. And that conversation is very cathartic for me. I think what is very important is we identify what we like to do. And well, yes, I paint. I make sure that every alternate day I sit with my colors and do something which keeps me, which is like my time. I do not entertain calls. I don't engage in anything but, that 1 hour that I spend with myself feels good. Sometimes there are thoughts, there are continuous thoughts. I don't know where they are coming from. I just let them be. I'm not sitting with a single thought and trying to reflect. I just let it be. It helps. I think what is really important, which we all know, is sleep and food, which has been highly compromised for all of us because of our schedule. So I'm not saying push really hard, no sleep on time, get up on time, your screen time should be limited. How can I say that when, everything is perpetually done on screen? But yes, find out those pockets in a day that makes you feel good about yourself, minus others. That should not involve others in any capacity. It should just be you. Write if you wish to write. I mean, you can maintain a journal. You can, listen to music. Very basics, but music helps. We don't realize it, it helps. So not every result, not every, what we are doing, what is the end goal of it may not be very obvious. कि मैंने कुछ कर लिया और उसका रिजल्ट मुझे उसी वक्त दिख गया. It's not tangible. Not all the time. I think it's great if you can identify what makes you happy, what allows you to sit with your emotions, even difficult emotions. That's how you can maintain your emotional health. We push away, darker emotions. We push away our anger. We push away our hurt. We push away our, being envious. We push away the aggression, the violence that we are experiencing. I think it's important if we also stay with it and see what it is doing to us. Yeah.
Ma'am, I think you've already answered this question. Aditi Jha has asked how to know that we are doing enough and not overburden or saddle ourselves with unnecessary expectations. If you have anything else to add to it.
Okay. Again, I don't think there can be one scale we can all put ourselves onto and say that, okay, this is good enough, this is not good enough. And you have to continuously fight to maintain that balance. It's very different for each one of us. There is no concrete definition of what is good enough. For me, good enough could also be just being present in a conversation. For me, good enough could also mean, I'm present in the session and I'm delivering something, and the other feels extremely great about it. So there is no one way of defining what is good enough. Yes, we do, we push ourselves and tell ourselves that there are so many expectations. My parents have, my siblings have, I have, my friends have, my professors, my colleague, my boss, everybody. But it's okay to disappoint sometimes. It's okay to not deliver those expectations. It's okay to know how much you can offer. So when, your question in itself says, when you say that, how to know how to know that we are doing enough and not saddle ourselves with unnecessary expectations, which means you are also confessing and sharing that we saddle ourselves with expectations which are unnecessary. So we already know that we are putting that weight on our shoulders for some reason. वो जरूरी है क्योंकि जब हमें पता है वो unnecessary है लेकिन हम उसको हटा नहीं पा रहे हैं, मतलब it is serving some purpose, it is doing something to us, but it is also exhausting us, maybe making us cranky and frustrated, affecting our relationships. Stop yourself, break it down, prioritize. Let your expectations be personal. Attend to what others expect from you, but let that not be the criteria that defines you.
Ma'am, so we'll take one question from the list of questions that had come before with the registrations. So one question is, sometimes stressful situations pressurize us to overreact, and after cooling down, we regret lashing out. So how do we control the situation?
Can we really control the situation? Yes, we say work out. So we know when we are going to react. It's just that those few seconds, हमें पता होता है, I am going to explode now. And sometimes we want to explode. That may have its own consequences, of course. It may impact your relationship, your equation with the person. But it's also important to observe how frequent is that. Are you lashing out way too frequently? Are people bothering, are bothering you way too much? Are you, feeling too overwhelmed and affected by what others are saying, what others are doing, what is happening in the environment? Observe how often that is. If you feel that it's happening a lot, it's time to see someone to talk about it, because it's not just about you lashing out. It's not just aggression. I think it's more than that. There's something you want to convey which is not happening. And maybe sometimes we also displace. When we cannot lash out at someone who's senior to us, who's an authority figure, we do it on someone subordinate, someone who will absorb us, who can take us. So observe. If it is happening frequently, then I would suggest that maybe you should see someone, a professional. Yeah.
Okay, so another question that we got a lot was overthinking and stress, because we were overthinking and judging ourselves too harshly. So is there a way to calm us down when we know that we are thinking too much and we are like kind of going into a black hole because we are thinking too much and we're taking ourselves to that place?
See, again, what matters here is what is the content of those thoughts. What are we thinking? Are those negative thoughts? Of what kind? Are they directed towards us? Are we constantly pulling ourselves down? Are we questioning our self-worth? Are we questioning ourselves in relationships, in our academic, professional growth? What is it like? If those thoughts are overwhelming, are negative, are directed towards you, where you're not able to separate the situation, the experience, the other from you, it all becomes about how you are responsible for everything going wrong. You're not good enough, you're a bad person, you hurt people, or you don't know how to maintain relationships. So this is called as rumination. When we are in this loop, what we said as black hole, it's like downward spiral. And sometimes it is difficult to break that. And you need help, you need assistance, you need professional assistance to help you understand on what occasions that is, it is happening. Are there specific situations that's making you overthink? Sometimes we tend to overthink before we go to sleep, because we are on our bed, maybe we are scrolling through Instagram, yet something is happening. बट हम उस पर भी ध्यान नहीं दे पा रहे, हमें इंस्टाग्राम भी चलाना है, हमारे दिमाग में और भी 4 चीजें आ रही. So observe the pattern of your overthinking, the content of it. If it is putting you in a place of negativity, where you're questioning yourself, your worth, and it is of course, then it would impact your relationships, how you are socially and with yourself. Reach out, talk about it. I can say that, okay, why not just distract yourself and do something which requires concentration, focus, something that you're passionate about. Try to break that thought. But sometimes we need professional help, because it's not that simple. Because it is not that simple, I'm also not propagating that do it and it will be fine. It may not be. There could be many reasons why there is this tendency to overthink, which causes further sense of rumination and poor self-worth. Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions, but unfortunately we're out of time. So
what? Yeah.
I would request, ma'am, if you could put in your credentials, your email ID, so people can reach out to you.
Yes.
And the email ID of the Wellness Center has been put out already. So
Yeah.
any more questions, and if you think you need help or you want to, have a consultation appointment, you can mail out at this email ID. You can mail ma'am, and ma'am will reach out to you. So with this, we have to come to an end of the session. Firstly, thank you so much, ma'am, because you gave us so much, beneficial information. I think it would be useful for all of us because I personally really related to a lot of it, and I think a lot of us did. And other than that, thank you so much about the elaboration of the program. You guys can.
Do you want me to say that? Okay. Sorry. Whoever asked. So I'm available as a, like I said, in the capacity of a counselor with your college. You can avail counseling sessions / therapy with me since we are not meeting in college. So it will be virtual on Skype. You can reach out to me through the email ID, which is already mentioned, wellnesskmc@gmail.com. Please share your college year and the course that you are enrolled in. And if you can write very briefly the reason why you wish to seek therapy, I will get back to you on email or on WhatsApp. And then we can mutually fix a date that works for us and a time, and I'll see you online. So usually I take a couple of sessions to understand what is it that you're bringing in, followed by, if we feel there is a need, we can continue to work. Or sometimes, a couple of sessions helps and you don't need long-term therapy, which also works. So this is how it works. My background is in clinical psychology, but my work is mostly psychodynamic, which means it's exploratory. Therapy is not a space of advice or suggestions. Like I said already, but if you have any psychological, emotional concern that you want to address and talk about in this space, feel free to write on the email ID given, wellnesskmc@gmail.com.
Yeah, so again, thank you so much, ma'am. And you guys have the information to reach out now. If not, you can reach out to any member of the Roundtable Society and we'll help you to reach out to ma'am. Apart from that, thank you so much, ma'am, again. Thank you to all the faculty members, advisors who joined today for the session, and all the members of societies, different departments, all throughout KMC that you joined. On behalf of the Roundtable, we are really, really grateful that you took out the time to join. And we hope that this was a positive experience and you guys took something from today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanchika. And I'm so happy to see that so many people joined in. And I think that's what is important. So thank you so much, Palak, Vanchika, Shruti, Neha, and all those who are part of the team who helped in organizing, of course. So thanks a lot. And I hope you guys felt helped. You can reach out to me anytime.